The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Dold, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I want to thank Administrator Fugate for taking the time to be with us today, and certainly want to thank you for your service to our nation and especially your efforts to monitor and assist with the tragic situation going on in Japan. I do have just a couple of questions, maybe more than a couple, but maybe only get to a few. With the program carrying on significant debt, as you had outlined earlier in your testimony, has FEMA actually taken the maximum allowable premium increases allowed by law?
For those that were not actually based, we were given the authority to increase those a certain percentage each year. I think that's currently at 10%. And looking at being able to accelerate that process is one of the things I believe the draft bill is looking at. For many people, again, this is how quickly do you phase in some of these changes because of the financial impact. Currently, I think it was at 10%. I think in your draft bill, you're looking at a higher percentage increase to get those policies quicker to the actual rate that we would charge to a person entering those programs.
Sure. My question just simply is, has traditionally FEMA taken the maximum allowable premium increase?
Those policies, we do the 10% to get them to the actual base, but that's the cap that we can move them to right now.
Okay. And obviously our goal is that we want to make sure we can, well, I think part of our goal is that we want to make sure people are covered, and we want to make sure that we take some of the burden off of the government and the taxpayer and put more of it onto the private sector. And in order to do that, premiums are going to have to rise, and I think you've outlined well kind of what that balance is going to be for the taxpayer, for the homeowner in those areas. Now, the other thing is I like the idea of allowing policy owners to make installment payments for premiums, but I'm also concerned that installment payments could also result in adverse selection, with the policy owners paying premiums only during the perceived high-risk sessions or during the seasons, while letting policies lapse during times where it's perceived to be low-risk seasons. In that case, FEMA would receive only about half of the premiums than they're currently receiving right now. Are you concerned that installment payments could negatively impact the program's finances? And what can FEMA do to eliminate this adverse selection possibility?
I know you got more questions. I'm going to try to be short. If you got an escrow account, my insurance and taxes and all these things are paid out annually. But if I'm personally buying my insurance, the ability to make quarterly payments, I think, is critical for somebody who gets that large bill one time a year. I think we have to just make it clear, though, the rules have to say, you buy insurance a year and ahead. So your quarterly payments, if you stop, not only do you not get to come back in the program, you owe us money because we covered you for the whole year. And I think this is the way when you buy car insurance or anything else where you do monthly payments, you don't buy it that month. You buy it at 6 months or 12 months, and you're paying for the full bill. So if you don't make those payments, you now owe the U.S. taxpayers money back because you got sold that insurance policy for the full year. And I think that's where the rules have to come back to, that you're not buying it by quarter. You're buying it at a year with an installment plan. You fail to make those payments, you're in arrears to the taxpayers. And two, there's got to be a penalty about how you get back into the program until you satisfy your debt.
Is there an enforcement mechanism that you're thinking of? I mean, I like the penalty. Does that mean that you're going to push that off to whom? Or how is that going to be enforced?
Traditionally, and the way we would look at this program, and we go to the quarterly basis, as I believe the draft legislation is looked at, we would make it so that when you buy the policy, you're buying a year's worth of policy. Failure to make those payments, you'll go in arrears. We're going to send you a debt. We're going to send you a bill. You don't do that, we turn those over to Treasury for collection. And then we would look at what the rules would say about where you would be able to re-enter that program. Would you have any probation, additional cost? Would you be at higher risk for the penalty of payment? And I think it would be contingent upon, again, our traditional, we do not necessarily collect debt, but we do turn over debt to the Treasury to collect. And I would say we're selling you a year policy. You don't make those payments, you owe the taxpayer the money back.
Administrator Fugate, the GAO says that the program's not actuarially sound by design. Does the program reserve for losses like the private insurers do? And has the program ever reserved for losses?
In the beginning, it was not really envisioned that there would be any funds built up to absorb disasters. Congress over time has allowed some to be built up, but with the existing debt, we're not able to really maintain a large reservoir of funds. And so it was I think, a decision that we are going to subsidize some risk, but I think the unintended consequences is that risk kept growing, not going down. And so I think this is where we have to come back and look into reauthorization. How do we determine what is the level that the taxpayers should subsidize versus what the homeowners should be required to protect and make sure they can protect their mortgages and their investment?
I thank the administrator. My time's expired.
Thank you, Mr. Dold. That